Let's play some football. Let's play some football.
The pressure is on. This is Off the Edge on Tide 100.9.
Focus on what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. Think about that. Don't think about how you feel, how tired you are, how hot it is. You got to push yourself on the field like when you're playing football.
It's my honor to present the National Championship Trophy to Coach Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide.
To me, this is the ultimate team. All these guys bought into everything they needed to do to be the best players that they could be. There's more togetherness on this team than almost any team that we've ever had. And they had to overcome and persevere so much adversity through this season, and they've done it magnificently. And I'm so proud of this group for what they've been able to accomplish and going undefeated and winning the national championship.
Streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and the Tide 100.9 app. Here is your host of Off the Edge, Jacob Harrison.
Your man overthrown. Spit out the ball.
Hello there. Good morning. Welcome in to Off the Edge, Tide 100.9. Good day to talk some Alabama Crimson Tide football. We'll do that for the next 56 minutes here on your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports. You can enjoy the show live on our streams, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Off the Edge. Hit that subscribe button, the like button, the follow button, share. All of those great things certainly helps the show out, as well as find us on Twitter and Instagram for other great content as well at Off the Edge 109 on all platforms, as well as the Tide 100.9 app. That's your best friend as an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. Breaking news, analysis, conjecture, columns, whatever you need, it's right there at Tide 100.9 app, available on your Android and Apple devices. Let me first tell you about Alabama Vintage at alabamavtg.com, at alabamavtg on the Instagram account, and on 2210 University Boulevard in store. Great items up for selection for you. We gave away our $25 gift card last Friday. Tommy and Romulus was the big winner there, and I know he'll put that to great use, and we'll get into all the things that pertain to the Alabama Crimson Tide. But for you to truly enjoy it, you got to be decked out in the right apparel, the right gear, and all of it is there at Alabama Vintage. Whether you need commemorative t-shirts, sweaters, jerseys, hats, shoes, it's all there. Charlie's got it in store for you. Go check them out, 2210 University Boulevard, under the Crimson awning across from City Hall in the heart of downtown T-Town, and find a way to boost your fandom. Check them out on Instagram at Alabama VTG on the Instagram account. Connect with the brand ambassadors for 15% off your order at alabamavtg.com. So at 11:15, we'll go out to our good friend AJ Spurr. We'll get his thoughts on this past weekend, a full slate of games. We'll dive into some of the other contests that took place, take more of a national scope today on my end. When we're talking to AJ, of course, we'll get his thoughts on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Last night, though, great showing from the Ole Miss Rebels. Got to say, I'm feeling pretty good. Not great, feeling pretty good about my projections that they would finish this season 11-1 and be the one true contender to the Alabama Crimson Tide in the SEC West. I think without a doubt, as far as the SEC West goes, other than Alabama, of course, no team looked better than Alabama did nationally, regardless of the circumstances. But if you look in the SEC West, you remove Alabama from that situation, and you look at which teams performed the best relative to the competition that they faced. Of course, Auburn put up 60 points or whatever. You're not going to consider that. But Ole Miss playing Louisville, a team that matches very similarly to them and playing high-speed offense, fast tempo, deep shots down the field, takes advantage of the seam routes against the linebackers, those sorts of things. And doesn't always play the best defense. I thought both teams showed improvements on defense, but Ole Miss showed a lot more. Now, that being said, we'll have to kind of see how that measures up with better football teams overall, because Louisville, at the end of the day, not a good football team. You saw the graphic dating all the way back to a November loss when Lamar Jackson was still a Cardinal. That team is 22-30 since that time. Not a good football program. Not a good football program at all. We know what Matt Corral can do. We know what that offense is, and they've replaced their weapons. A lot of folks talking about, oh, well, they lost these guys and these guys and these guys. Well, when you look at Ole Miss replacing their weapons and you compare it to a Florida losing their weapons, I would say Ole Miss did a much better job at reloading than a Florida did. So I feel pretty confident in what I've said about Ole Miss. I think they do bring something interesting to the table. And in a landscape of college football teams that really underperformed and really were underwhelming and were really shocking in a lot of ways, you look at Ohio State, you look at Oklahoma, you look at Clemson, you look at Georgia, you look at LSU maybe a little bit. The entire Atlantic Coast Conference just crap in the bed. Like they did not live up to the hype of what they are supposed to be. Ohio State struggles defensively. Their redshirt freshman quarterback struggles in the first half. Really and truly, you hate to say it, but they get lucky when Muhammad Ibrahim, tears his Achilles, and that completely changes the ball game. A couple of personal fouls go the Buckeyes' way, and then they're able to take advantage with some deep shots in the second half. You look at Oklahoma struggling against Tulane, who had a absolutely hellacious week, practicing in multiple venues, having a home game taken away from them, and having to go instead play in one of the best stadiums in college football, go play in Norman, Oklahoma. Sure, they get the green wave painted on the field, but that doesn't really give you the boost that you need. And lo and behold, despite having a few run-ins where Oklahoma was able to boost the lead, Tulane just comes 1 yard short after recovering an onside kick, and we all know how hard that is. Clemson and Georgia. Sure, if you love defense, and I do, great football game, incredible football game. But Georgia's offense is archaic, and Clemson's offense doesn't look ready to go yet. Justin Ross doesn't play well. DJ Uiagalelei doesn't play well. Both these defenses are great, but how is it relative to the offenses? And I know we're talking about elite football teams. They're going to pound. These two are going to pound the rest of their schedule out like it's nothing, like it's absolutely nothing. But when you're looking around, you're saying, "Wow, there's a few teams that are a little bit surprising. They're stepping up." You got Florida State takes the number 9 team to the wire. Looks like they've got that home field advantage, and they've got a quarterback. Listen, Mackenzie Milton should be the starting quarterback for the Seminoles the rest of the season. You look at USC, Keaton Slovis, comparable to Mac Jones in a lot of ways in his skill set. Can he do some of the same things with USC with just a little bit less talent out there in a wide open Pac-12 where Oregon struggled with Fresno State, and you got UCLA? Are they for real? Are they for real? You can't know because LSU isn't even close to for real. Isn't even close. Completely and seriously overrated. So the national scale of college football, and listen, we saw the tweet, right? If you took Alabama out of this, you'd have a very exciting race to see who's the top team and who's going to win a national championship. Here's the thing about that. First of all, that's a thing in every sport. You can take the Yankees out of baseball. You can take the Chiefs out of football. You can take the Lakers or whoever else out of the NBA, and you'd be like, oh well, it's a little bit more fun now, right? The elite blue blood is gone, and it's all of us just coming together and seeing who can be the champion. Well, first of all, another team would just rise into that spot. It's a logical fallacy. It doesn't make any sense. But on the other side of that, you can't look at the teams 2 through 130 and say there's a national champion there without acknowledging what Alabama looks like. You can't just remove Alabama like, oh, well, they're just not fair. They're just too good. That's what a champion is. That's what a champion is. A champion is better than everybody else. That's why they get the trophy. That's why they get the opportunity to go out there and waylay on another elite team and show who's better. And they go out there and they do that and they win. And that's what Alabama does on a week in and week out basis. And that's not biased information. That's actually stepping back and logically looking at it without saying, oh, well, it's not fair. It's not fair, because even me as an advocate for expansion and playoffs and expansion of all these evolutionary processes in college football, none of them are to harm elite programs. None of them. Does it suck a little bit of joy out knowing that you can predict Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Clemson into the college football playoff every single year, and that you'll likely be right on at least 75% of them? A little bit. But that has more to do with the structure of the playoff than it does with those teams being so dominant and so elite. Because if there were more spots, then they'd be more likely to lose and more likely to not make it into the inevitable national championship of that situation. So in retrospect, you look around, what those other programs need is opportunity to raise themselves up. You do not need to bring anybody down to their level to have a good college football season. That's not how this works. You don't bring down over the past 20 years, you've never brought down the Patriots simply because they were always there. You waited for other teams to come up. And every now and then, another team would come up. Every now and then, another team would come up. That's what you're looking for. Who's going to be the team that can come up and look at what Alabama did on Saturday and say, we can challenge that. There's only room for two or three teams to be able to even attempt to look at what Alabama said yesterday and put their shoulder pads on, buckle up their helmet, and say, we can challenge that. We can challenge that. How reasonable is it? How feasible is it? How realistic is it for a team to look at what Alabama did on Saturday to the Miami Hurricanes and say, we can take on that? It's very likely that they can say that. The ability to do it is a completely different story. But that's why we play the games. Because a lot can be put on paper. Because on paper, I can predict 10 games out of a college football week and get 3 of them wrong because the games are not played on paper. And that's something that Nick Saban is going to preach all throughout the week, right? You got Mercer coming into town. You can't overlook them. You're going to beat Mercer because you're the more talented team. You're the well-coached team, or you're a better coached team. Mercer is a good football team relative to its level, as Coach Saban said. But you're not overlooking them to play Florida and stumbling in the least regard while you're at home, right? This is a chance to practice really and truly against a good football team wearing different colors in your field, in your stadium, on your field, with fans in attendance, and executing a game plan and putting that into action, and then coming back and playing Florida the next week in their house. That's what it's about. Constantly improving. Who else is going to constantly improve and try to get on Alabama's level? We'll talk about it next with AJ Spurr of Roll Tide Wire, the site editor there for the USA Today affiliate of the Alabama Crimson Tide. He's next here on Off the Edge. Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama sports.
Creamy nut butter makes it delightfully sweet. Roasted nuts make it perfectly salty. Get 2 great tastes in one delicious bar. Enjoy a Nature Valley sweet and salty nut bar today.
O'Reilly.
Get more miles on the road with O'Reilly Auto Parts. A clean fuel system means better gas mileage for your car. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, get 2 bottles of Lucas Fuel Injector Cleaner for $8. Plus, earn double O Rewards points. For a clean, lubricated, more fuel-efficient system, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Don't miss a play at the Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Your front row seat to all the action. Place bets on all professional and most college sports at the counter, kiosk, or on your phone. Then catch the game on one of our 20 big screens from the comfort of the newly remodeled Timeout Lounge. Plus, the PRR Sports app gives you access to live, in-play sports betting. Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Be more than a fan. Be a player. Must be 21.
Tuscaloosa Tire and Service. They've got the big brands you know and trust. Goodyear, Firestone, Bridgestone, Cooper, and they can finance for you as well. When you need routine maintenance and alignment, a tune-up, whatever it is, belts, hoses, just basic stuff, or when you don't know what's wrong with your car, truck, or SUV, make it Tuscaloosa Tire and Service. They're dependable. They're trustworthy. That's why they've lasted for over 36 years. Skyland Boulevard, McFarland Boulevard East in Northport on Lurleen Wallace Boulevard. Check out the website, TuscaloosaTireandService.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A mix of sun and clouds this afternoon, a chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms through tonight. The high today 86, the low tonight 70. Tomorrow partially sunny, a shower or storm in scattered spots during the day. Tomorrow's high at 88. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 80 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
We aren't going anywhere. Off the Edge is available in the podcast center on Tide100.9.com.
We're back here on Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports. Trying to connect with AJ Spurr right now. We've been having those phone issues all morning, but we're connecting with him here in just a second. Got to say, though, two issues of note here, two breaking news pieces here in the past 20 minutes that you can check out on Tide100.9.com. First is a serious knee injury to Namari Burnett of the basketball team. It is expected to be announced as something quite serious. And also two SEC Player of the Week come from the Alabama Crimson Tide, both Bryce Young and Will Reichert, named Offensive and Special Teams Players of the Week of the Southeastern Conference. Let's head out to the hotline. Welcome in our good friend AJ Spurr, site editor of Roll Tide Wire, covering the Alabama Crimson Tide for USA Today. What's going on, AJ?
Doing mighty fine, and let me tell you, Jacob, the hotline is even hotter when I'm on hold there. I've got some takes, like always, to spew. So let's just get right into it. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's a great day to talk some Alabama Crimson Tide football, especially after a big victory, 44-13, over your hometown Hurricanes. AJ, I'm not going to send you in any particular direction with the first question. Just give me your initial thoughts after watching that beatdown from the Crimson Tide.
I loved it. I loved every second of it. I am down here in Miami. I'm from here in Miami. Grew up around a bunch of Miami fans. I actually was the opposite. I was an anti-Miami fan. And I grew up rooting for FIU, which is the other university down here. It's Conference USA. But I thoroughly enjoyed watching the Miami fans to my left and to my right, just bow their heads in disappointment. It was a lot of talk about Bryce Young. There was a lot of talk about the run game, some of these wide receivers, Jamison Williams. Is John Mechie going to be the guy to be wide receiver one for the Crimson Tide? And a lot of answers were given quick in this game. I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a great game for the Crimson Tide. I think Saban yet again proves it's a matter of reloading, not a matter of rebuilding.
First of all, that's a hell of a rebellious mindset. Go FIU over Miami. I respect that. I respect that.
Let me jump in real quick. These two teams, FIU and Miami, had a series down here in the Marlins Park, and the first game was played, I think, back in 2018, and that game was won by Miami, as many would expect. In 2019, FIU came back and actually got the win. So out of the last two meetings, they're 1-1.
Wow. That is some trivia I would not have been able to pull up. No knowledge of that. That's incredible, man. A lot of schools down there in that area, though, and a lot of the high school talent in that area comes up here for the Alabama Crimson Tide. But let's start with the quarterback. Let's start with the California guy, Bryce Young. Man, a lot of people, for whatever reason, come in with doubts on this guy, but he was a 5-star prospect, number 1 player in the country, and he proved exactly why Saturday afternoon, breaking records. 344 yards. That's an Alabama season opener record for a first start. 4 touchdowns. That's a record for a season opener for a first time starter, as well as the 94-yard touchdown to Jamison Williams. That's the longest since AJ McCarron hit Amari Cooper in an Iron Bowl several years back. So your thoughts on how the 6-foot-tall guy performed? He looked like he could manage that pressure if it came his way, and used his athleticism, but he only had 1 positive scramble.
Let me tell you this, as a shorter guy myself, I took complete and total offense from the commentators talking about Bryce Young being a short quarterback, but still being 6 foot tall. No, but in all seriousness, 4 touchdowns, 344 yards. I was genuinely impressed. I did not think Bryce was going to have a bad outing or a bad debut as the Crimson Tide starter, but I definitely did not expect to see this, high caliber play from a fresh 20-year-old true sophomore quarterback that only saw action in 9 games, and even that was very, very limited. I was super excited to see what he can do. I think, people were all up on Twitter right after the game, even during the game, talking about how this Alabama train of quarterbacks that are coming out of nowhere, really, with Tua, Jalen, Mac, and I think we're going to see a fourth here with Bryce Young.
There's no doubt about it, and there's plenty of reason to be excited about a guy that comes in and does what he's done, and he shot up to be the favorite in the Heisman race after so many quarterbacks around the country did not perform up to snuff. Sure, one exception being Matt Corral, who did play last night, and I thought he had a fantastic performance. But with Bryce Young, something that helps him out is a lot of the unknown commodities around him, whether it be the offensive line, the running back core, the wide receivers. That can kind of boost him into that spot and potentially become the first quarterback to win a Heisman Trophy here at Alabama.
100%. And you talk about all these other quarterbacks. CJ Stroud was one that was hyped up heading into this season. He did not look that good. Clemson's DJ Uiagalelei. We want to talk about California kids out there making their debuts. Well, I guess he debuted last season against Notre Dame, but in the season opener, he did not look good in my opinion. I don't know if you saw it, Jacob, online. People are talking on forums that his Dr. Pepper sponsorship has taken too much time away from the field, and he's not that good. No, but out of all these quarterbacks that you mentioned, Bryce Young is clearly, just through one game, is clearly the best option out of all of them. And on top of that, Matt Corral, is finally taking one of my oldest takes, and helping me out finally. Back during 2019 SEC Media Days, I spoke about how, this kid got grit and this kid, has the right mindset to be a quarterback in the SEC and thrive. And then when Lane Kiffin got brought in, I was, all on the Matt Corral hype train. And last night, first of all, we need to be thankful that he did not get called for targeting. Just because, what was it, 5 other guys?
I think there was
got called. Was it 5?
It was 4 or 5. It was a lot.
Gosh. No, but Bryce Young, star, undoubtedly star, and Matt Corral, I think, is going to land on a lot of people's radars this season if he hasn't already.
Yeah, if you ask me, it's kind of between Bryce Young and Matt Corral right now on the old stiff arm bronze trophy, and I know it's only one game. But I've got this take on Ole Miss that they're going to be the one team to challenge in the West. So I kind of need Ole Miss to keep on doing what they're doing and step up on defense. I thought their defense looked pretty improved last night. I know they're playing Louisville, and they're not, for all the speed they've got, they're just not a very fluid football team. But we'll see how that defense kind of shakes out for them. But sticking back with Alabama and the offense and the way they looked, the running game was something that a lot of folks thought Alabama would lean on. I think they had 38 total carries, counting the sacks on Milroe and Bryce, for 147 yards, averaging just 3.9 yards per carry. But again, 8 yards lost on sacks. And Bryce Young really didn't contribute to the running attack outside of one first quarter first down. What did you make of the rushing attack? It seemed to be evenly dispersed, and all four guys seemed to take advantage of opportunities when they had them. They just seemed to be kind of spread out. What did you take out of the running game for Alabama?
Well, heading into this game, and I mentioned this, on your show last week, Jacob, I thought Alabama's running game was going to be Alabama's key to success, mainly because Miami's secondary, heading into this game was touted as, one of their greatest in a very long time, and it was going to give Bryce Young a lot of trouble. It ended up being quite the opposite, especially when Bubba Bolden got ejected for targeting early in the game. But Brian Robinson, I think, cemented himself as the RB1, at least for the first half of the season. I think he showed flashes of Josh Jacobs. I think he's not afraid to run full speed ahead through someone. He's not going to try to get around, over, or under someone. He's going to run right into their face. And I'm all for it. And also, I think Trey Sanders is going to shoot up the depth chart very, very fast. I loved what I saw from him. I'm glad to see that he's healthy. He doesn't seem to be hesitating on any motions, any movements. He is back 100%. I don't know if you saw the picture. After he scored that touchdown, he ran right to the sideline and hugged the director of rehab for the football team at Alabama. So, Trey Sanders is back after that devastating car crash he suffered last season, and then the season before that, the torn ACL. I'm excited to see what this kid could do, and let's not forget, when he committed to Alabama, he did say that he was going to make a Heisman run. Didn't happen his freshman season, didn't happen last year, probably not likely going to happen this year, especially considering who the quarterback is for Alabama. But, I think Trey Sanders has it in him.
Certainly still plenty of time for him to come to that situation. And again, I've been on the Trey Sanders hype train all throughout camp. I think it would only be a matter of time before he's kind of the lead guy. It's just a matter of having confidence in his ability to take hits. And 8 carries, I think 51 yards and a touchdown on his first series. I think he's got the goods. I almost skipped over a guy who had a very impressive game given certain circumstances playing out the way that they did. Cameron Latu found himself as a starter, and his first 2 catches, touchdowns. But he also, that second touchdown, showing the ability to break some tackles. He's not just a converted outside linebacker to a tight end. He's a tight end, and that's what he should be spoken of. And he certainly helped out Bryce Young in his first start.
1,000%. And Cameron Latu's a name I think a lot of people became aware of during Alabama's A-Day when I believe it was a 45-yard touchdown catch and run that he had early on in the spring game. Mm-hmm. And, I've obviously been aware of him for a while now, just on the depth chart, seeing him move from linebacker to tight end, but, never really got to see any of what he has to offer in terms of on-the-field production. And I think a lot of Alabama fans were not expecting to see him. Obviously, everything going on with Jaleel Billingsley. If I'm Jaleel Billingsley, I am getting a little bit nervous. It's hard to see what Latu did on the field on Saturday and think to yourself, no, yeah, I'm still, solidified as the top tight end on this team. I think Jaleel Billingsley and Latu are 2 very different, built tight ends. I think Billingsley almost comes out like a Kyle Pitts, like a wide receiver off the line kind of deal. Whereas Latu is this big bodied, he can block and make plays. He's agile, he's fast. And like you said, on that second touchdown catch and run, he's not only able to break tackles, but he's smart enough to, stiff arm near the end zone. He's not just bracing for impact. He's looking for, how can I extend this play and get as many yards as I possibly can?
Absolutely. And it was good to see Jalil get on the field and deliver a good block that that created a hole for Trey Sanders to gallop for 15 to 20 yards as well. So I mean, the rich get richer. Alabama looks like they have 2-star tight ends after many years of wondering who was going to be the next OJ Howard. And one good season from Irv Smith. It's really kind of been, kind of bleak right there. A lot of guys who can block, not a lot of guys that can contribute in the passing game. And now Alabama's got 2 of them. Defensively, if I were to ask a lot of folks if De'Aaron King had a good game, I've heard it both ways. I've heard people that respect De'Aaron King's game and say that he did play well. He just had no help. And then I've heard other people say Alabama's defense made him look like an absolute fool for still playing college football. The end story, though, the bottom line is that Alabama's defense is as advertised, wouldn't you say?
I would say it's better than advertised. I mean, this is a defense that people were calling, the best in the Saban era while he's been at Alabama. And I think on Saturday, we all just got a taste of what this team's going to be able to do. And, everyone's been talking about Will Anderson. And yes, he had a great showing. I loved getting to watch him perform. But there's a different player. And I know, Jacob, you are just as high up on him as I am. And it's unfortunate that he gets to make his, rise to the top of the depth chart in these circumstances. But Drew Sanders filling in for Chris Allen, who's now out for the season likely with a foot injury that requires surgery. I am very, very excited to see what Drew Sanders can do. And I think he came in and got, 6 total tackles. He wasn't even expecting to play on Saturday. And instead he came in, was a difference maker, and gave not just Alabama fans, but the college football world a taste of what they can expect from him this upcoming season.
Yeah, he showed a lot of the versatility that you would like to have out of those outside linebackers in a 3-4. The traditional, the old school 3-4, that was kind of the way that you had to play it, is the way Drew Sanders did. You weren't just purely a pass rusher, kind of like Will Anderson is. He does make his plays in the run. I'm not discrediting him at all, obviously. But being able to play off the line, play some coverage, play to the perimeter, Drew Sanders showed all those things. I do want to see more as a pass rusher. But on the back end too, just going to the off ball linebackers and looking how Christian Harris played. It was our first look at Henry To'oTo'o. He did leave the game with an elbow injury. He's going to be fine. We're expected to talk to him in media today as well. What was your impression of the Tennessee transfer? He made a handful of plays. I saw a blitz that he was able to get in on. He helped in that 4th and goal stop that Drew Sanders blew up. What'd you think of Henry To'oTo'o in his first appearance in Crimson and White?
Well, I thought, he performed well. He's a leader, and that's obvious. He was a leader while he was at Tennessee, and I don't think people expected him to assume the, quarterback role of the defense as fast as he did. But he earned the respect of not only the coaching staff, but the players on the field, in the locker room, and just out as a family. And that was evident on Saturday. You can see him communicating with players, letting them know, what he's doing, where their assignments are, what they need to do as a single cohesive unit. And I was, a little scared that he went down and left the game and didn't return. I'm happy to hear that he's going to be coming back. I think he's a difference maker, not only in terms of what he can do with production and the stats he can put up, but just what he means to the players around him. It almost reminds me of Dylan Moses, who was a great player. I don't know how he went undrafted, but a great player on the field. But more importantly, he was a great communicator. He was a great leader, and he really did gel the Alabama defense.
Talking to AJ Spurr of Roll Tide Wire, the site editor there covering Alabama Crimson Tide football, Alabama Crimson Tide sports for USA Today. You can check him out on Twitter at Spurr FM. AJ, we kind of glossed over him, but the Terminator finished with a team leading 9 tackles, 1.5 sacks, tackle for loss. I look across college football and I see what Kayvon Thibodeau did in the first quarter, and I respect that. I saw what Zach Harrison did against Minnesota, and I respect that. I saw what Derek Stingley did in the Rose Bowl. I don't respect that. Is Will Anderson? Because I mean, he went out there and cost Zion Nelson tens of millions of dollars. Is Will Anderson the best defensive player in college football? Nay, the best player in college football.
It's hard to disagree with the defensive side of things. Is he the best overall? There's an argument to be made, but with the way college football and everything works now, there are more arguments against that than there are for him. In terms of the best defensive player in college football, I don't see how, someone can vehemently oppose that notion. It's one of those things where you may have another player that you prefer over Will Anderson if you're a hypothetical voter. However, you must acknowledge the sheer dominance Will Anderson shows over opposing offensive lines, their running backs and the quarterbacks. I mean, it's almost it's borderline disrespectful, Jake, what he's able to do to these people.
A machine shows no emotion. I mean, it's got to be disrespectful. Otherwise, you wouldn't be the Terminator. It's so bizarre. It's so incredible too. I mean, the mind of a defensive player is usually described as unhinged and broken. And this guy is he's just such a good guy off the field. Big, bright smile. Listens to R&B music. To flip the switch into that guy that is just so monstrous. It's incredible. But let's look around the national scope of college football for just a second. These elite programs, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but these elite programs just looked off. I mean, we're talking about college football where you can look at the top 5 programs and be like, yep, 4 of those guys will be in the playoffs, and we'll have an idea, of what that's going to look like throughout the season. But Ohio State struggled. Minnesota's a gritty team, but they still struggled. And CJ Stroud really just kind of got lucky that Chris Olave is still playing college football, I think. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma struggles with Tulane, despite the Green Wave having the kind of week that they did. And Clemson and Georgia, they both look ready defensively, but I'm not sure they're ready offensively to contend with a team like Alabama. What do you make of these elite programs looking the way they do in week 1 of college football?
I think it's a mixture of higher expectations this season than what they should have been. I mentioned the other day online about the AP poll and how this year just felt way off. I mean, Oklahoma, number 2 team in the nation, a 5-point differential. At the end of it all against Tulane. What many would argue a mid to lower tier team in the AAC. I mean, it was one of those things where you just kept changing the channel, hoping you would kind of see something you expected, but it never came. Ohio State against Minnesota is another example of, a highly ranked team versus an unranked team. Granted, Minnesota and Tulane, 2 very, very different tiers of unranked. But I think that just further speaks to how weird this first week has been. We see a number 2 team in the nation almost losing, to a group of 5 unranked team. Ohio State, who, was touted as, this might be the year they actually, go all the way, take down Alabama and make it look easy. All right. They struggled against Minnesota. I think you hit the nail right on the head with Clemson and Georgia, 2 very, very strong defensive teams, which is something I'd love to touch on because I think defense overall in the country is getting stronger. And a lot of people talk about how offense is going to take over college football and defense doesn't really matter anymore, almost like everyone's moving to a Big 12 type of deal. That proved wrong in week 1. But the list goes on and on. What is it? 3 FCS teams won in week 1 against Power 5 opponents, one of which was a top 20 overall ranked team in Washington, losing to Montana. It was just surprise after surprise for me. But I enjoyed it. I love chaos, especially when the chaos messes up the rankings.
I just stumbled upon JT Daniels' stats, in-depth stats against Clemson a short while ago. And because it seems like a collision course with Georgia in Atlanta, right? And JT Daniels is supposed to be part of the reason behind that. He's 18 and 19 on passes under 10 yards, 2 of 3 over the middle of the field, 1 of 4 outside the numbers at an intermediate level, and he didn't even attempt to pass over 30+ yards. I agree, and I think Kirk Herbstreit said it last night too. If you want to be successful, you can't just abandon defense. You do need to play good defense, and nobody's playing better defense than Alabama right now. So how can Georgia change what they're doing now, or between now and potentially facing Alabama and Atlanta in December to try to even compete with Alabama and try to earn that playoff spot?
It's simple. I think they have to play overall good football. Historically, the SEC, obviously a defensive, strong conference, and that kind of looked like what Georgia was resorting to in Week 1 against Clemson. In recent years, like I just mentioned, a lot of people thought college football overall, including the SEC, was moving toward a more offensive-minded structure. And Nick Saban even admitted that was last year, maybe 2 years ago, that college football is evolving. The game constantly changes, and Nick Saban, more than anyone else, loves to be ahead of the curve on things like that. I think we talk about why Alabama is so dominant, especially in SEC, the best conference in college football. And it's because right now Alabama has a perfect balance of strong defense and elite offense. And Georgia right now, what they showed against Clemson was, sure, they've got a strong defense that can go up against the best, but what can their offense, show for it? If Alabama's offense breaks out for a few touchdowns against Georgia's defense, what is Georgia going to do when their lackluster offense faces a just as strong, if not stronger, defense against the Crimson Tide?
There's a few teams on the rise, AJ. I thought Florida State, man, that story, the way they played in front of their home crowd against the number 9 team in the country. I mean, that's college football right there. The fact that so many people got to watch that game and see such a great game, go into overtime. It's a shame that it came down to the kickers. But regardless, incredible football game. You look out at USC, the Pac-12 is just as wide open as it's ever been, especially with Washington already falling. As you mentioned, to the Grizzlies. Got to watch out for the Grizzlies up in the Northeast, man. or the Northwest, excuse me. But regardless, another team, of course, Ole Miss, what they did last night. There's these teams on the rise, and it's not that I'm necessarily saying, what's the team on the rise that you expect to make the playoffs, make a lot of noise, but just one that you're going to enjoy watching throughout the season. Is it one of those 3 teams? Is it another that you're looking for to make a little bit of noise in the national scene on college football?
Well, one team that I'm definitely going to keep an eye on now, and I had not planned on doing so this season, is 100% FSU. I think that the ACC, as many people saw in Week 1, it was embarrassing what happened there with a lot of their top teams and their mid-tier teams. So FSU is going to be one to keep an eye on. One that I was excited to watch this season, and last night kind of cemented that in, is Ole Miss. I'm super big on Matt Corral. I'm big on Jerrion Ealy. I'm big on now, I didn't even, look into him too deeply until last night, was Snoop, their running back. I think he's going to be something special. I don't know if you saw that Josh Jacobs-esque truck he had en route to the end zone late in the game. Their defense, also, I know it was Louisville, and Malik Cunningham did not look good. He looked very, very unprepared. He did not look comfortable back there. That's just my opinion on everything. So I know it may not be a fair shake to say Ole Miss defense did a, stellar job against an offense that wasn't really too good to begin with. But I am excited to see what this Ole Miss defense does this season, because last night showed me, at least, that they're prepared and ready to take on stronger offenses like Alabama and some of these others in the SEC.
Final question for you, AJ. I know we got Mercer in the home opener this weekend. It's never been pretty when the Bears have come to Tuscaloosa, and I don't expect it to be the case again, despite them putting up a nice 69 points against Point, who failed to score a point. But nonetheless, I mean, you don't overlook the opponent. You continue to move forward and you play the game ahead of you. That's all Nick Saban can tell his guys. Go out there and execute. What do you want to see out of the Crimson Tide in their home opener in front of 100,000 strong in Bryant-Denny Stadium?
Well, what do I want to see? I want to see Jake Fromm's younger brother, Dylan Fromm, who is a quarterback for Mercer, deep down there on the depth chart. I want to see him play because I think that would get the fans going. But what I really would like to see is, consistent offensive play. Bryce Young shocked the nation, broke records. Jamison Williams, stole the show from John Mechie, who also had a great game. The run game, I'd like to see a little bit more push from the running backs. I'd like to see more play calling that favors the running backs just to see what they have. I'm not calling this a tune-up game, but if there's going to be a game where you try some things out or want to get a better feel for the different players in the backfield, this is the game to do it. So for me, it's all on the offense. I want to see what they have to offer, if they can match or improve upon what they showed this past Saturday against Miami.
That's AJ Spurr at Spurr FM on the Twitter account, the site editor of Roll Tide Wire, covering the Alabama Crimson Tide for USA Today. Man, AJ, we always appreciate it. Take it easy and don't lose your mind. There's no college football tonight, man. You're going to have to find something else to do.
Listen, I'm counting down the days until my Dolphins play again. So you know what? Thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to be back on next Tuesday and talking not only college football, but two of the Mac Jones as well.
Absolutely, man. We look forward to it. It's going to be a fun game. Take it easy, AJ. That's AJ Spurr, Roll Tide Wire. Go check him out on the Twitter account. Great follow at Spurr FM. We'll take a break. Your phone calls, 205-342-9904. Just a few minutes here left on Off the Edge. Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
Don't miss a play at the Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Your front row seat to all the action. Place bets on all professional and most college sports at the counter, kiosk, or on your phone. Then catch the game on one of our 20 big screens from the comfort of the newly remodeled Timeout Lounge. Plus, the PRR Sports app gives you access to live in-play sports betting. Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Be more than a fan. Be a player. Must be 21.
You know what happens in a plasma chamber?
Big stuff. Science stuff.
Diamonds. I'm Tom Osmond. Fincher & Osmond Jewelers carries artisan-created diamonds.
Earth and human safe.
And bigger. Lots bigger.
Fincher & Osmond diamonds from the mines or artisan-created diamonds.
They're all diamonds.
If you want to give her the big stuff, you've got to see these diamonds.
FincherandOsmond.com. A little tricky to find on McFarland Boulevard between Edgar's and Local Roots.
Dive into fall with everything to power your big ideas during Dell's Labor Day event. Save up to $300 on select Dell XPS and Alienware systems powered by Intel Core processors. Save on top accessories like Dell monitors, docks, and other popular tech essentials. Limited quantity deals go live each weekday through September 8th with free shipping on everything. Call 800-BY-DELL for Labor Day event savings. That's 800-BY-DELL.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Sunday! It's the savings event of the season. Progressive's Home and Auto Bundle Extravafesta Save-a-thon. Your chance to save big by bundling your home and auto insurance. But only this Sunday. Unless you're busy, in which case you can bundle Tuesday. Or if you already have dinner plans, then try Friday. But if the week gets away from you, you can just wait till next Sunday. Because Progressive's Home and Auto Bundle Extravafesta Save-a-thon isn't going anywhere. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Has the pandemic affected your business? Even with more and more customers going online in the past 5 years, online business has grown greatly due to the pandemic. Now more than ever, it's important to have a strong online presence so that customers can find your business and products easily. That's where Townsquare comes in to help. Go to mylocalcustomers.com for a free competitive analysis to see how your business stands up to the competition. And if you're one of the first to sign up, you'll get $500 in free advertising on this radio station. That's mylocalcustomers.com. Townsquare not only can help you find more local customers online, they'll also help you grow your business to a new level. With premium website services that get you new leads every day and no contracts to sign, there's no better time to join. Not only that, Townsquare also has a dedicated marketing specialist who will be with you every step of the way, making changes that will benefit you and especially your business. It's fast, easy, and you can cancel your subscription at any time. So hurry to mylocalcustomers.com and get your $500 in free advertising today.
Don't miss a play at the Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Your front row seat to all the action. Place bets on all professional and most college sports at the counter, kiosk, or on your phone. Then catch the game on one of our 20 big screens from the comfort of the newly remodeled Timeout Lounge. Plus, the PRR Sports app gives you access to live, in-play sports betting. Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Be more than a fan. Be a player. Must be 21.
Hey, Bama fans, before you head to the stadium to watch the Tide roll, stop by JD's Market and Spirits for all your tailgating needs for Bama football games. Located only 3 blocks from the stadium, JD's offers over 500 liquor items, 400 wine items, and a huge selection of craft, domestic, and imported beers. JD's also has hot dogs, snacks, ice, and game day supplies. Everything you need for tailgating. JD's Market and Spirits, 400 yards from Bryant-Denny Stadium on the west side. Call 722-2113.
Power your big ideas during Dell's Labor Day event by taking advantage of limited quantity deals. Save up to $300 on select Dell XPS computers and Alienware systems powered by Intel Core processors, and all with free shipping. Just call 800-BUY-DELL. That's 800-BUY-DELL.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A mix of sun and clouds this afternoon, a chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms through tonight. The high today 86, the low tonight 70. Tomorrow, partially sunny, a shower or storm in scattered spots during the day. Tomorrow's high at 88. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3240 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 80 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Follow Off the Edge on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for live streams and instant analysis. Off the Edge with Jacob Harrison continues.
All right, let's get to it quickly. Here on Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama sports. Let's get out to the hotline, try to squeeze in these 2 calls. Mike from Birmingham, you're on the air, man. What's going on? Mike? I don't think Mike's there. Later. Kendall, my man, what's going on, Kendall?
Nothing, man. Just, I didn't get a chance to call in yesterday. I just wanted to take my quick victory lap on Alabama's best quarterback of the Nick Saban dynasty, Bryce Young.
I appreciate that. We need to pay all the attention we can to Bryce Young, and we need to do a great job of making sure that the whole world understands that he's our Heisman candidate. I mean, I would love for a defensive player to win it, and Will Anderson's going to have a hell of a year, but Bryce Young's our Heisman candidate, and Alabama's not going to promote it. So the fans, the analysts, the radio guys, we all need to do it too. But if you're taking victory laps, I'm taking one on you early before Saturday. And saying, go Bruins, LSU, who got beat by the Sissy Blue, and where in the world is Derek Stingley?
Oh man, that was so. First of all, it was a lot of fun to be able to go to the game. Obviously, my dad is a LSU grad, so it was very cool to see them out there on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
We actually got to sit in front of Derek Stingley's family. We were down there in the family section. It was a lot of fun to go to. But LSU's performance was absolutely pathetic. It was pathetic for the school, for the state of Louisiana, and for the entire conference of the SEC. It was awful.
Kendall's going to be filling in for me tomorrow. I've got some business I got to attend to. But Kendall, I know you're going to talk about LSU tomorrow, and that's completely fine. But I do want to kind of just real quick. Is it the coaching? Is that the problem at LSU? And does it start with Ed O, or is it just the hires?
Yes.
Does it take time? Does Ed O make it through the year?
Does he make it through the year? I don't know, dude. So my dad said this after the game. LSU is really one season away from becoming Tennessee. That's kind of where the program's at right now. And I would say it's time for him to go. The coaching on Saturday was atrocious. Lack of communication. It looked like the same exact team that was out there last year. So I don't know what the hell they did in the offseason, but Coach O needs to go. It's time for him to be out.
A lot of people have given me this side eye when I say it's Ed O's last run, and every LSU guy I've talked to is like, yep, you're right. He's gone. Later. We're done. So no doubt about it. Kendall will fill in for me tomorrow, and he'll also join us for the Saturday morning showdown as usual. Kendall, we got to get out of here, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, always, my man.
Absolutely. Kendall Hollowell joining us there for just a split second. The Jay Barker Show is coming up next. Ryan Fowler in the game. Takes it for 2 to 6. Tied tonight as well. we'll have some fun. There's a lot going on. Don't overlook Mercer, Michael. Don't overlook the Mercer Bears. They put up 69 last week. They won't do it against Alabama. Y'all have a good day. Roll Tide.
Thank you for listening to Off the